I'm going to hit the edges of the flag bodies with the iron, roll them, and then we're gonna hem them so they don't come unfrayed or come unraveled. So what do you think? We've got dark thread and light thread. So what I said before is, if I use this linen thread, it may not take the dye as well. I think it probably will. I think it would probably be okay. You pointed out that it would look more rustic, and that actually might look pretty cool. Or I could use this this darker colored stuff, and then we're assured that it's dark. What do you prefer? What do you think? I'll leave it up to you. Let's see what the delay is here. Meanwhile, I'm going to drink coffee and light some tobacco. I see we have a new visitor in the chat. Welcome. We are very slowly making a pirate flag, and for your benefit, I'll put up a picture of what we're aiming toward. We just spent the last couple hours kind of chewing the fat, and meanwhile preparing. You can't see it in the frame here, but over on the side there, I've got some pieces of. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you chose that. I think that's what I want to do too. Let's do that, because, like you pointed out, if it does weather or fade at different rates, it'll look cool. So we'll do that. Anyway, for our other visitor in the chat, I'm going to put up a picture of the flag that we're aiming toward, and we'll see. We'll see that in just a minute here when I get this set up. I'm kind of new to streaming, so I'm clumsy, but trying to improve every time I do this. So display capture camera. All right, let's shrink this, and then we'll go down to here, preview, and there. So this is one of only two, maybe three 18th century pirate flags that exist in the world, and it's in this museum somewhere in Scandinavia. It was captured off the coast of Africa from the Barbary pirates, and so we want to make a couple copies of it, and so that's what we're doing. Right now, what I've got is pieces of fabric cut out in the general shape of the big body, and I'm going to stitch them together. I'm going to do a hem along the bottom and sides and top, and then do this reinforcing part. Let me move this over here. Do this reinforcing part too. And then I'm going to dye it black, and then it'll be cutting all this stuff out, painting it, sewing it on, and all that. But for now, it's going to be just, right now we're doing just the basic prep work stuff, which is just getting it properly ready so it can fly as a flag. So fit the screen, there we go, turn that off. All right, so I'm going to take just a minute here. I'm going to consume some coffee, rum, and tobacco, and then we're going to proceed. Got my iron hot. I'm going to take the fabric. I'm going to probably fold the edge over very finely, and then we're ready to roll. And the actual stitching goes pretty quick. There's a ton of it to do, but it's not real hard. This is kind of light fabric, and it should sew pretty fast. And it's a real simple stitch too. If I could find some royalty-free sea shanties, we could have some music. Either that or a couple more mugs of rum, and I may start singing them. I have a friend who, he's a musician. I think he's an accountant actually in real life, but in his 18th century alter ego, he's a very good traditional folk musician. In fact, I think he has some recordings of sea shanties, and I was thinking last week of talking to him and seeing if I could use some of his music on stream, because normally when I work, I listen to music or YouTube videos and stuff, but I think they're pretty I think they have a bunch of bots that listen for copyrighted music, and I don't want to get my streams taken down or anything, but I do like to have music, and I'd like to promote his stuff because it's really good. I think he lives in Louisville, and maybe I can work something out with him where I'll promote his music and get to listen to some cool stuff while I work, because I miss having the rhythm of music while I sew. Somehow it makes it easier. All right. You know what? Meanwhile, let me get my needles ready. Let's see here. Oh, these packets of needles here that I haven't used before. Oh shit. The older my eyes get, the harder it is to spot these things, to get them threaded, but we'll see what we can do about that. Look up David Coffin singing Roll the Old Chariot. Oh, I know, well, okay, I don't know if I know David Coffin, but Roll the Old Chariot is a great song. I love that song. I have sung that. I am not a good singer, but I am enthusiastic. What I lack in talent, I make up for in enthusiasm and volume. Old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, right? Is that the one? I think so. In fact, you know what? I just heard that song. I don't know, within the last couple months on YouTube, there was some kind of a maritime festival, and the guys were singing that song like out on the street. It was, just kind of impromptu. I wonder, how do we do? I think it's fair use if we critique it, right? I mean, I could use some inspiration. Maybe we'll. That's the one I sent it to you guys. Okay, I don't know if I had that or not, but let me see. Well, you know what? Here, I'm going to look it up on YouTube. I've never had any strikes or any kind of problems with my channel. I mean, I don't do political stuff. I don't do controversial or racy or anything like that. I mean, I'm all just making old-fashioned stuff. I might play a little bit of it. Let's see if we can find it. David Coffin, Roll the Old Chariot. There's something inspirational about this kind of stuff. And like the whole point of sea shanties, and I think most of them are 19th century, but I have to think that there was some kind of thing similar to it in older times. David Coffin. Roll the Old Chariot. Yeah, right here. I can see it. Oh yeah, okay. So thank you. You sent it. Yeah, I see it here. This was excellent. We're gonna mute the. I don't know if you can see. Oh, you can't, can you? Let's see here. Let me get my display capture. Open that up, and then I want to reduce the size of me on here, right? Well, that doesn't do it. Hold on a minute. I'm a terrible noob on streaming, but I'm learning slowly, but I'm learning. Camera, there we go. All right, so let's reduce the size of this. And now we'll go to this. And, oh, I also need desktop. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have a problem because I don't think I can do that because I'm using the microphone on my webcam. It's going to, well, I won't be able to listen to it. That's the problem. That's the problem. If I had headphones, I do in another room, I could. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. Let me grab my headphones. We'll see if we can plug these in. We'll get a few seconds of this great song, and then we'll see what we can do. I'm going to get the song. Yeah. let's see what happens here. All right, so I'm going to plug these in. Now maybe we can do this without feeding back. Now I won't be able to sing along, so you'll be grateful to that, because I think we have a lag. All right, tell me if this is working. There's no sound, is there? Okay, hold on a minute. Here's what we got to do. I've got to turn on the audio. I've got to turn on the audio. I've got to turn on the audio. I've got to turn on the audio.
Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. We'd be all right if the wind was in our sails.
This is a disaster. Okay, I'm going to have to figure this out. And it's a shame because I really like that song. I like this singing. I like this style of music. But on here, I can tell it's already feeding back. So, all right, I'm going to get to work on sewing. I really enjoy this. Highly recommend it. David Coffin, Roll the Old Chariot. Another one I like is, well, there are a bunch of them. Yeah, Echoes Galore. Yeah, it's not going to work. I'll, you know what? I'll do some experiments. I can experiment with this offline, and I'll try to figure out how to do this kind of thing, and then we can have some fun. Because right now it's more distraction than useful. So anyway, all right, view, fit the screen. I'll tell you what, you guys on your computers can run that in the background, and you can listen and provide your own soundtrack to the stream. Fit the screen. So meanwhile, I'm going to have a drink and a smoke, and then I'm going to get to sewing, and then we can chat about whatever you wish to talk about. But I highly recommend listening to that stuff. It's really good. It kind of gets you. The best thing about it is it's a rhythmic. The rhythmic singing is great for this kind of work. So when I sew tents or anything, it's a steady rhythm that's great. Good work songs, When you was in the 18th century, you sang like birds. So, yeah, well, I'll have to figure out how to do the audio and showing YouTube stuff. But I don't want to distract from that. All right, so give me just a minute here. I'm gonna get ready, and we've been on for several hours. And, I think it's time to stitch these up. Once we get rolling, it won't be that difficult. I need to, let's get linen thread. I need my beeswax. I always wax this stuff. Got a cake of beeswax. This helps protect the thread from the abrasion on the fabric, and it just makes the sewing go good. Helps it last longer. That's all right. You don't need a lot on there. I just run it across and put a little bit of beeswax on. And that's true with clothing and tents and now flags. And I'm certain it was done with these. And probably sails too. That's another thing I want to do is I want to make sails. I don't actually want to build a sloop. I want a sloop, but I don't have the ability to do that. But I sure would like to. I want to make some sails. There's a great document online called, it's an old book, but somebody digitized it and put it online. Steels, S-T-E-E-L-E, Elements of Seamanship, and it's like 1797, I think, and it's like all the sails that you need from sloops and shallops and ships. really cool. It's got great diagrams and all the parts and everything you need if you were building a ship. I cannot see this. I have this needle here. There we go, I think. Yep, all right, good. So, needle is threaded. So I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to prepare myself and then get to it. Now I have that song in my head, so thank you for sending that. I'm trying to think of a way to have to listen to that music. You know, I have an old phone, my old phone somewhere. Actually, it's over here. I charged it. I think I figured it out. I'm going to charge my old phone, and I can plug the headphones into that, and I can at least listen to music because I'm using my active phone as a monitor for this because I don't have any. I don't have a second monitor. I've got the one monitor, and if I show that, then right now I'm running OBS in this, and that allows me to see what you guys are actually going to see in a few seconds. But I use my phone as a monitor in the chat, and it shows me the chat because I have the YouTube app. But this way, I might be able to actually listen to some music while I stream. And so I just did that whole tent with no music, which was the first time I've ever done that. I always listen to stuff while I'm working, except now that I've been streaming, because as you can see, I can, I'm doing well to have any kind of audio on this. Okay. How do I want to do this? I think what I want to do is steam the edge and roll each one. I'm gonna fold each one like a quarter of an inch, or maybe slightly more. Then tuck it under and steam it again with the iron. That should hold the edge, and then I'll just fell it down the whole way. And I'll bang them all out at once. And this should go pretty quickly. These are, by the way, I think this is the right size. I think we talked about this a while ago. If I get back here, that's a decent sized flag. And I think these edges will go, it's not nothing, but they'll go pretty quick. I almost don't think that I would want, if you put this up on the wall, I don't think you want it a whole lot bigger than that. If you actually had a ship where you needed this visible for 8 miles, you maybe double or quadruple the size. I sent that one, what was it, Battle of Trafalgar? The flag that was captured there? Or was the Armada flag, right? I think it was a Spanish flag captured at from the Armada. And it's like the size of a basketball court. It was huge. So the big ships of the line, the flags they carried were gigantic. So I have to imagine even on a sloop they would have bigger flags. There are some. Let me see. I've got a. I'm goofing around a little bit. Let me see if I can find that picture. I've got some old drawings here. Let me see if I can dig them up for a moment. Good copy. Source reference. Where are we? Well, even the photo, and I've got a bunch of reference pictures in here. I'm not going to get off track and do this. I'll spend another hour goofing around here, and we won't get any work done. But if just a thumbnail that I used for this stream, that flag on the back of that boat is huge. So where are we on this? So I think in general they were very, very big, much bigger than we think of. You know. So all right, let's get to work. Right. Almost can't stall anymore. I tend to do this when I'm sewing for hours. Do all the prep, get it ready, take a break, and then just push through. And so this hemming is going to be a kind of a blitz. And we're going to have a pretty cool flag in not too long. All right, let's rock this thing out. So I've got 3 pieces of fabric. I've got a hot iron. I've got a belly full of coffee and rum. I got some knowledge about this stuff, I think. Let's see if we can do something useful here. Sorry I can't get you a better camera angle. This is what we got. Okay, let me make sure that we have the right one. Yeah, okay. This is yours. I want 3 sides. Yeah, actually, no, I want 4. Because well, 3 with the normal end, right? You have to give this a minute. There we go. There we are. Some steam, finally. A little heat. So I'm just going to warm it up, get it a little damp, and then it should be able to roll. Hello, Cat. How are you doing, Scout? What do you know? Do not mess with the cord. So I'm just folding the edge over and ironing it down, and then I'm going to fold it again once that's done. This just makes it easier to sew as I go along. I think I'm going to go ahead and do this now, like each one, rather than try to do them all, and then in stages. I guess I should speak up, huh? I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'm going to assume you can. The audio on? Yeah, all right. So I'm just folding it over steaming it and then folding it again to, this just protects the edge so that it can be sewed down. It's going to be a pretty thin hem, about 1/4 of an inch. Hey, no, stop that. You can't do that. You are adorable, but you are a mess. You may not do that. You come over here and amuse yourself. Not here. Where's your ball? Do you have a ball? I think that's better. So I started out at 1/4 inch, but now I'm thinking I want it even smaller. I'm going to go, we're going hardcore here. I'm going to go down to about 1/8 of an inch. I want this tight. I'm going to make this look cool. Hey, stop that. Listen, you can't do that. No, quit that. Quit it. Come here. No. That's not going to work. You got to go. You gotta go in here. Here's, all right. Yeah, we're gonna go really tight with this. It's gonna look cool. It's gonna work, and it's gonna look even cooler than it was. That real wide one works, but this looks better. Let's see here. Let me get this. That's better. Bring my phone in here in case you chat. I can see what you're saying. Oop. Okay. So we can communicate now. I can see the chat. So I'm not paying real close attention to it, but I can see it. I'm going to start this over. I fouled this up. I was going with a 1/4 inch, but I think the 1/8 inch is a little more badass. More an old school show-off move. A lot of times in the 18th century, again, everything then, the sewing machine wasn't invented until 1840, so up until about then, everything that everybody wore was hand sewn. And so people developed skills that most people today can only, maybe can't even imagine, in terms of the tightness, the fineness of what they were able to achieve. And there's a certain virtuosity that is displayed in even plain old work shirts, everyday stuff that people wore and used. And just looking at the stitches on this flag, on the original, I'm pretty sure that the guy who sewed that had done a lot of this stuff and knew what he was up to. And so I'm going to try to replicate, maybe not stitch for stitch, but try to get it to display some competence. It's a little bit, takes a little bit of care, but it gives a nice result. Because when this is sewed down, and it's one of those things that you don't even notice, really. Like when you're looking at it, you're not gonna ever, nobody's ever gonna look at this and say, wow, what a tight hem. You're gonna feel it. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense, but there's a, they say, what's the expression? Quality has a quality all its own. Well, actually, I think the expression's quantity has a quality all its own. But in this case, to do something well, you may not even know why you like it. It just looks good and it's kind of cool. That's what I'm going for here. So I just want to make it look cool. I suppose there's a functional aspect to it too. With the finer hem, the hem itself will affect the beating of the flag in the wind even less. Not that this is flying from a sailing ship of the 18th century, but I try to make my stuff so that it could. I made my tent last week, finished it 2 days ago, and you know, I try to make my things that, as it, in case they ever, you know, a time traveler from that period showed up, wouldn't notice anything out of the ordinary, would just say, oh yeah, that's a tent. Of course, it's nothing unusual. Same thing with the flag. Oh yeah, it's a pirate flag. Hang him. Don't want you hanged, obviously, but you get the idea. So this takes a little bit more finesse, but I think it's kind of worth it. You'll be able to see this when I get up close. I'm just doing this one edge because cotton doesn't take the same kind of steam on linen. Band linen, you press that with steam and it'll hold a really nice tight crease for, you know, just really well. Cotton does not work the same way. It kind of wants to unfold and unravel and stuff. So this gets it sort of there, and it's going to take some more effort to keep it in place. I much prefer linen. I like linen for a lot of reasons, but that's one of them. You press it and it stays pressed. Cotton sort of. Cotton was kind of rare in the 18th century. It was a luxury good. Linen, however, was everywhere. Of course, linen's been used for 4,000 years at least. Saw these shirts a week or two on somebody posted on Twitter. I forget what museum it's in, but it's like ancient Egyptian shirts, a pair of them. I think there was a man's and a woman's, husband and wife. They found these in a tomb, and they were just amazing. Like, so finely made, simple cut, you know, real boxy and just plain. But they looked like, if you looked at them, if somebody told you they were 10 years old, you wouldn't have any trouble believing it. They were just kind of modern and chic and well made. And, you know, I guess the climate in Egypt is such that stuff stays preserved for a long time. All right, there's our first edge. I'm going to use this. I'm going with it as it is now. So, let me move my camera back. I'm going to cover this just so you guys don't get seasick. And then we're gonna gonna get to stitching. I'm gonna do one edge at a time just so it doesn't unravel or unfold because it's just kind of picky, you know. Cotton is just real, it's just kind of funny that way. This will take a little bit longer to do it this way. I think it'll be worth it. All right, so here we go. We got our hem rolled, pressed. Needle threaded, and move my camera a little bit so maybe you can see some of what I'm doing. How about that? Does that work? Let's see here. I apologize for the motion sickness if it occurs. I'll tell you what, like this. Tape. Where am I working here? Try this. And with my high-tech camera set up. Yeah, there you go. All right, let's try that. So, on the needle and the thread, I'm just going to drive this in to. I'm just rolling it under for anybody who watches this stream in the future. And again, I'm not a professional nor an expert. I've just done some of it, and this is how I do it. You know, people who know what they're doing may do it differently, but this is what I have found works. So I drag it in inside this hem. Now I'm just pressing. I'm going to show this again just to demonstrate for anybody who watches this in the future and wants to know at least how I do it, and then you can, maybe somebody who knows what they're doing can teach you the proper way. But so I've got that coming out of there. I'm going to go in, just drag that up there just to the edge, run it down, pull it back until you're just catching a couple of threads on the edge there. Draw it through, and then you have to kind of guide it around so it doesn't hang up on the end of that folded piece of fabric. But you don't want to do that. You don't want to pull it all the way out like I just did. Anyway, that's what you do without the pulling out part. So let's try this again, but competently. How about that? So going in, through, leave it at the end there. Run in. Once you get it started, then it tends to be a little bit easier once you get rolling. I think I want a longer needle. There we go. All right, that's not pulling out. So let me see if I can get. Do I have a longer needle? I think I do. I like a long needle because I got big, clumsy fingers. Where's my other pack of needles? No, I don't think any of these are any longer than that. I think I do have a, maybe in here. Let's see. Now this. Very slightly longer. What else do we have? It's kind of important to be able to be comfortable with it because what's this? It's all right. Well, for now, we're going to go with this one. I think the next time I thread one, I'm going to use this other one that is just a fraction of an inch longer. But I have found over the years that I prefer longer needles just because of the shape of my hands. But we'll get this going. This will be all right. So anyway, let me get a couple of these in, and then I'll give it a close up here, and you can see what I'm doing. What I tried to do a minute ago. Just gonna run in. Just run in right on the edge, pull it up, and then it's kind of hard to see with this light colored thread. It's, you know, the high contrast stuff is a little bit easier for me to see, but I mean, this will work. You know what though? I mean, I'm kind of thinking now. You know what? I think I'm going to make an executive decision here and change not only my needle but my thread. Instead of the linen thread, I am going to use the cotton darker stuff. Because this is so bright, it's very difficult for me to see. And I think I will do a better job with the higher contrast thread. So I think I'm going to switch over right now. Where's that thread here? I'm glad you think so. Yeah, this will be better. This stuff blends in so much that it's almost impossible for me to see. That's not just my old eyes. It's, you know, even when I was able to see better than I am now. That's a real challenge. One of the things is just in practical terms, it slows you down, you know, because you're trying to see what you've done before and how to space it. Like if you don't have, the less you have to think about this stuff, the better. The key to a long run of sewing is a good rhythm. If you can get into that rhythm, what the hell is that? Somehow we've developed a freaking knot in here, so that's got to go. If you can develop a good rhythm, then you get nice even stitching and everything just kind of goes together really well. And if you can't, then it's sort of a struggle. And I may get halfway through this one and say, you know what, this isn't going to work. I'm going back to the other way, or I'll find something else, or go find some other thread. I don't know. Until I get into the middle of it, I never quite know. I just sort of make it up as I go along, and often it works. Not always, but sometimes I accidentally get stuff right early on. Other times it takes a little bit of research. All right, so there's that. No, don't retangle. Thank you. I can barely see that thread. There we go. All right, let's try this. Stick the needle. Trim this stuff away. All right, so we're going to go in here at the corner. So pull up. Okay. I'll show you a close-up here when I get a few of these in. I have a better sense of what it's actually going to look like. So right now, I'm just sort of learning myself. Oh. There we go. The corner's a little tough just because, I mean, partly just because the thread wants to catch on that corner, and it, you know, I find the fewer variables I have to control and pay attention to, the better my spacing and length of the stitch and angle and all that. all the stuff that I look for, that I like, seems to go better. There we go. Now, what was that other one? There was a stitch that somebody taught me years ago, and I can't remember what it was, but it was a cool edge stitch. It was kind of a fancy one. It wasn't that hard to do, but it just looked really good. It was cool. So let me see. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, there you go. Right. So now here's the stuff I'm going to work on, but you can see the stitches now pretty clearly, and they're starting to hold this edge down, so this won't now come loose or fray or anything like that. And that's all there is to it. It's just simply holding it down and holding it together. So now just more, I don't know, what's 36 times 2, 72. So that's 6 feet, and then we have 100 inches on the other ends, on the other lines. So we've got 50, so it's about 4 feet, roughly 4 feet, 8 feet. 8 and 6 is 14, so just another 14 feet of this. Nothing to it. Oh, thank you. I'll take that as high praise, man. That's what I like. And that's kind of the goal. And the more you do that, like if you go for, or in my experience, I probably should at this point in my life stop prefacing everything like that. But anyway, I find if it's easier, like this is kind of why I wanted to do this one instead of the red one. Like the red one, all I had were these kind of crappy, low-res photos taken by people who don't actually care about the detail. This one shows, the photos of this one, they show how it's constructed, and it's so much easier to just be as faithful as you can to the original, because somebody else already figured it all out. Like if you have to invent all this stuff, like if you say, oh yeah, okay, that stitch, it's a pretty simple stitch, just do that. You don't have to be too, you can put all your cleverness into figuring out how to do that rather than how to solve all these problems that have already been solved on the object. Like all I want to do is make stuff like it was made in the 18th century, and then use it like it was used in the 18th century, and then find out all the stuff that nobody ever bothered to write down about it. So if you do it like they did it, and then you use it the way they did, and you might learn some cool stuff. It becomes a time machine in a way. Let's see what the other side looks like. Yeah, see, now this is the other side of it. Now, of course, I plan to dye this material, so it should all become, all the stitching is going to be invisible. But just structurally and, from a craftsmanship point of view, I want it done evenly and nice, and, I want it to hold together and hold up. Yeah, and I'm glad I switched to this thread. I wouldn't be half as far along. I'm only 5 inches in, but it's much harder with low contrast thread that just blends into the background. And we roll the old. Yeah, see, now I've got that song stuck in my head. Like Johnny Collins too. And I think those are 19th century tunes also, but in fact, in some of them I'm sure they are. But I have a couple of friends who know a thing or two about sea shanties, and what they have told me is that sea shanties that we sang, at least, or here, are largely 19th century, but I sure like them. And they are good work songs too, because they're just steady, and it's nothing too complicated. You just do your work to it. It's kind of nice. Ow. That's another thing that happens. It'll loop around the edge and pull the whole thing with it. So you gotta untangle it and stuff. What is going on? Is that my phone? I guess so. Whew, all right. So where are we? Right there. So once it gets established, like it's kind of, I wouldn't say I'm racing along here, but you know, it kind of cruises, you know. Just steady, steady, steady. So do this for another 13.5 feet, and we get on to the next thing. And the next thing is going to be I'm going to be folding over about an inch or so of one of the long edges on this. What the heck happened there? Okay, we got a tangle we got to fix. And that'll be where the rope goes. Please do not knot. Thank you. And once that's in, then the body of it is complete and ready to die. And meanwhile, I can set to what I have to do is come up with the skull and bones. Damn it. What is going on here? Why is this tangling? The skull and bones, which is, you know, the badass part of this whole project anyway. I haven't quite decided how I want to attack that. It's either going to be, I mean, I've got options. I can trace it, I can grid it out, you know, which is an ancient method of transferring drawing to a larger thing. So I can draw a grid and then sketch it out, and then you just, so I've got a small original and a large final surface, and so you know, if you divide the large final surface and the small original into 9 squares, for example, then you just draw what's in each of those squares, and that gives you generally a pretty good transfer of the image to a large size, and that's been in use for hundreds and hundreds of years at least. Alternately, I have an overhead projector, which I could print out my image or trace it onto an acetate and then project it onto the fabric from which I want to cut the skull and bones. Or I can trace, and I've done all of these at different times. I could take the image on my computer and just hold a sheet of tracing paper up to the screen and essentially gridding it, but very accurate gridding, because it's, you know, I'm just tracing exactly what's in that grid. I mean, the other alternative is I could go, and I've also done this, I could take just send a digital file down to, scale it in my paint program. So here's my final print size, send it down to a local copy shop or print shop, and have them print it on a sheet of paper and cut a template. And you just use an X-Acto knife, and then you cut it out, and you use that for your, well actually, and you know what, this material is translucent enough that I could probably just lay this on a sheet of drawn paper. And I haven't decided which method I want to use yet, but any of those work. They all are good, and they will all give you an accurate result if you're careful with them. And the point is to get that skull and bones onto this flag. And so however you can do it, works, do it. I had a customer one time, a long time ago. They had a sign shop, and what they had was this was kind of cool. And it's funny, this was a high-tech version of a Renaissance system. So 500-600 years ago, they would take you draw a cartoon, you know, Leonardo da Vinci or Rembrandt or Titian or any of the old painters, draw a cartoon on a sheet of paper. So the way, just describing how we did it in modern times, take a big sheet of graph paper, draw your design, draw your cartoon, and then they would tape it up to this, they had a sheet of metal on the wall, on this device on the wall. That was connected electrically to a stylus he had. Now, in the old days, it would, and I've done this method too. You draw it on a sheet of paper, and you have a pounce wheel, which is, it looks like a spur. It's a handle with a rowel, or a disc with spikes on it, and you draw your drawing. But then you run this wheel all along the lines of the drawing. Then you hold that up to your surface that you want to paint, and you have say a bag or a piece of cloth full of chalk, and you pounce that on there, and then you take the paper away, and you've got a chalk outline on your final surface of the drawing you want. They had a variation of that. It was the same thing, except it used electricity to leave the pattern. It would, or to do the pouncing. They just dragged this stylus. It was connected to a power source, and they would drag it along, and it would the electrical contact would put the holes in the paper. So it's just kind of a high-tech pounce wheel. Sort of cool. And it works. We got a nice result. So here we go. We got a little bit more done. Ow. And they say blood, sweat, and tears. They're not making it up. Although no blood on this so far. Probably should have some, just for authentic piracy's sake, Hey, on the that's one of the neat things, and I don't remember if it's on this one. I think it was on the red one that we looked at. They found some black spots on it. They restored the thing, conserved it. And they determined that they were soot, and it was gunpowder. Apparently it had been shot through. Gassing out, going to bed. All right, man. Well, hey, I'm really glad you've been here. I'm going to carry on for a while. I am at this point cruising right along. So yeah. Well, have a good night's sleep, dude. And drop in. You'll be able to see. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be carrying on with this tomorrow. So drop me a line, or I'll send you a note and let you know when the stream's starting up. So, but have a good one, dude. Take care. Yeah, will do. I need to find that example that I made in the workshop. What was that stitch that I used on the edge? That was a cool stitch, and I don't remember exactly how it was done, but I liked it. See, we still have a couple people in the chat. Anybody has any questions or wants to just say hi, I am all ears and happy to say hello to you. I'd be selling this whether or not I was on stream, but makes the work lighter to chat while you do it, Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Ooh, too late. Fix that. Let's take a look at what we have so far. I need to stretch. One of the things about this kind of work is if you don't take care of your body, it will not take care of you. So every once in a while I like to drag my thumb and pinch it between your thumb and forefinger and drag along that seam, and it helps even out the stitches. Just a tiny amount maybe, but it helps. So anyway, this is by no means perfect work, but it's not terrible. And so here's the other side. Now this is all going to be dyed black, and so these will just become invisible. But I like to have neat work as I go. But we got more than half of one of the edges. Let me see if I can get the whole thing in frame. We got more than half of one of the edges done, and that's a good start. So the preparation took a lot more time than the actual sewing does, I think. I mean, it was several hours to get these properly sized and cut and everything ready to go. But because I took the care to do that, this goes pretty easily and comes up with a nice job. I'm actually kind of pleased with it. I mean, these are a little coarse, but they do, like, Fabrilis put in the chat. They are kind of like it does look like the stitches on the original, and that's my intention, is to just, I want to make that flag. That flag's cool, and that's what I want. All right, we're back. And by we, I mean I. Where are my glasses? All right, so when last we left our intrepid tailor, he was just past the halfway point on one of the hems. And so, here we go. I am going to wonder if I can get some audio out of this. Yeah, we got a little bit of a signal. Let's see. I can't really do that yet. Later. Remind me later. Does this work? That's the question. Yeah, that's gonna be all right. All right, in just a minute, I need to take a moment here and rest my hand, but I'm also trying to see if I can listen to some sea shanties or something while I sew. I've got the chat open here on my phone I'm using that as a monitor, but making good progress here. Once you get this part started, it kind of goes easily. I'm going to drop my needle and let it spin to take some of that twist out. There we go. All right. Carrying on. Going for consistent stitches all the way down the line. It's not exactly machine sewed, but in fact it's not even great hand sewing. It works, it's decent, it does the job, and it's competent. The stuff I saw on the photo of the original flag that I'm modeling this after, I actually couldn't see anything on the hem. I don't know what they did on the edges. I think the one edge was obliterated by time and wear and weather. It looked a little fuzzy to me. The other edges, I don't know. I don't know if they were done, if they were just selvages, or if they were done in a lighter thread, or the thread bleached out or something, because the stitching around the bones in the skull. In fact, I'm going to bring that up just so anybody dropping in can see what we're aiming for here. So let me turn on display capture, right? And we want to get the camera shrunken. I guess I'll put it up here and you can see some of the stitching, but let's go to here. So this is where we're heading. I'll just zoom in and you can see the original stitches here, and that's just you know, how they're held in on the thing. So let me do that again. Full screen preview. There we go. So anyway, right now I'm just doing the outer edges just to keep them from fraying, and that's what we're doing. When I zoom in, you can see, and this is kind of what I'm doing on the hem here. Got a slight delay on it, but I think you can see. Anyway, it's not terribly different than that. And that's just what I'm going for. It's similar in quality and method to what the original had. I'm not making a museum quality reproduction here, but I'm making a badass reproduction. When I'm done with this, it should look badass. That's my goal. I'm making 2 of these, one for myself. Actually, I'm making 3. One for myself, one for my friend, and one in reserve, because invariably when I make stuff, somebody says, "Oh man, I need one of those." You got any more? And I said, yes, I do, because I'm making an extra one. So I will have one that's available for whomever that is this time. But I'm definitely keeping one, and the first one, and the main reason for doing this project is my friend who asked for one. So he's getting one, I'm getting one, and then somebody else will get one too. And that's not to say that I won't make more of them, but I like doing groups of them at a time. It's kind of the way I work. You know, I'm all set up for it, so it seems to be pretty efficient to do several at a time rather than just one-offs. They're all unique, of course, but a lot of the operations are similar. You know, pulling the threads and trimming the fabric and getting all the materials and the tools together to do the job. You already have, you know, there's a not insignificant amount of effort in just getting set up for the work with the tools you need and all the stuff that goes into the production of the thing, let alone the actual design and everything. You know, I've got all my templates. They're all going to be made at the same time and ready to get, you know, it's just so much more efficient to do a few of them. Now, in the case of this pirate flag, I'm certain that was a one-off, you know, but that's okay. We rode the old chariot along. Every once in a while with this thread I have to let it hang and untwist because it seems to, as I stitch, the motion of the stitching imparts a twist to it. And if you don't do this, then it tends to want to bunch up and tie itself in knots, which is kind of a pain in the neck. Speaking of pain in the neck, I should sit up straight. That'll help my back feel better tomorrow, I'm sure. Doesn't feel bad. I don't have any chronic pain or anything like that, but good posture helps with this stuff because you're sitting in the same position for hours on end doing the same repetitive motions. So if you can keep your body in a comfortable position, it's not straining any part of it any more than it needs to be, then you'll feel better later. All right, so here we go. We're coming to the end of this side of this flag, and this is the one for this is the main one. That's what I'm going to call it. We got the main one, and then we've got my reproduction. My reproduction is secondary. It's just for fun because I've always wanted to make a pirate flag, and that's what I'm doing here. But the main one is going to be a cool one. And this is cool. And this is a design that he and I came up with together. It came about by accident. I sent him something similar to this image that's on screen. I said, this is what I'm thinking about. This is one of the last maybe 2 original pirate flags left in existence on planet Earth. But when I sent it, somehow the link was altered, or it sent a thumbnail of it, but it changed it somehow. And he said, oh, I really like that. And we talked for an hour with me thinking he was looking at a picture like this and him thinking he was looking at a different design. It was the same picture, but the computer had cropped it in a funny way. And so at some point we finally said, oh, you know what? I think we're looking at different pictures. Let's get it on the same page. And so we figured it out. And then I said, I'll tell you what, let me work up a mock-up because I think I know what you want. So we were talking about it. And so I hung up and was like, all right, let me give this a shot. So I made a digital drawing of it. And we came up with the design that we're going to do for him, which is what he wanted. And that's what we're doing. Now, the one I'm doing one like, well, actually, not firmly committed to doing 2. I know I'm going to do one. I'm doing one for myself, and I'm doing one for him. But his is a different. His has all of these elements, but it's just oriented on its side, so it'll be vertical rather than horizontal like this, because that's what he wants. So we're going to do that. Let me put my needle up so I don't lose it. I can snip my thread. And there we go. So we have one edge complete. I'm just going to drag this out just to kind of even the pressure of those stitches on this thing, and kind of makes it nice and even. There we go. We have one edge done. That's not bad for a little bit of work, right? That looks okay. My stitches look decent. They're not embarrassing, and it'll work too. You know, like so. We got to start. It's always fun. Like once you get rolling on this stuff, it just it starts to take shape. You take a two-dimensional fabric and you turn it into a three-dimensional object, and you put some effort and some materials into it, and holy cow, we transformed it into something useful. Into something useful that's not just potential. Like you get a bolt of fabric and it's like, oh, that has potential energy. Well, okay, yeah, it's got lots of potential, but this is actually realized potential. Like this is when this is done, I mean, it's now begun now. So that's pretty cool. I think that's neat. And I think I am going to end the stream right here. I'm getting tired, and I'm going to pick this up. It's now 4:41 a.m. and that's enough for me. So I'm going to pick this up tomorrow, but we have a good start. Got all my work, literally my work is cut out for me. I got it all cut. I got it all trimmed to size and squared off. I've got the first hem in, and I've established what materials I'm going to use for what kind of thread I'm going to use on this stuff, and I figured out the width of the hem and how to stitch it, and came up with. We've made some important decisions on it, and so tomorrow I'm just going to pick up where I left off, which is to do the other sides of this. And so I hope that you'll drop in and check out the next stream. It shall be stream number 3 in the Pirate Flag series, and we're going to make something cool tomorrow. So, Gigi, thank you for joining me, and